You didn't stumble here by accident. You were summoned by a frequency, by a whisper in the architecture of coincidence, because some deeper part of you knows there's more to this than wishful thinking and Pinterest affirmations. You've tried to picture your dreams into being. You've seen them vividly in your mind. And yet the world outside hasn't shifted the way you hoped. You've wondered if maybe you just weren't visualizing hard enough. But what if the very method you were taught was reversed? What if imagination was never meant to be a performance of wanting, but an instrument of creation itself? You've been told to see it and believe it, but most people visualize as spectators, not participants. They sit in the theater of their mind, watching their desires play on a distant screen. They project images, but not energy. They hope, but they don't collapse. Because true visualization isn't fantasy, it's selection. It's not creating something out of nothing. It's choosing. From an invisible library of infinite outcomes, the one you're ready to live. Every version of you already exists, thriving, struggling, evolving, infinite reflections across the quantum mirror of being. And each time you visualize, you're tuning the dials of that mirror, deciding which reflection steps forward into form. This is why imagination matters. It's not decoration, it's direction. It's the interface between consciousness and creation. When you see with coherence, when your vision is more than mental picture, when it vibrates with emotional precision, you begin to send a clear signal through the static of the ordinary mind. And the universe, neutral and exact, responds. So the question isn't, can you visualize? You've been doing that your whole life. The question is, can you remember what visualization actually is? Because in this moment, right here, something extraordinary is possible. You can stop being the watcher of your visions and start becoming the vision itself. The mirror doesn't lie. It can't. It only returns what stands before it, and the quantum field works in much the same way. In the last breath of our previous exploration, we touched the idea that visualization is selection, not fantasy, that when you stop watching and start being, the universe stops echoing indecision and starts reflecting precision. Now, let's walk deeper into that reflection itself, the grand mirror of consciousness that shows you not what you want, but what you are. Most people approach creation backward. They believe the outer world must change before the inner world can feel at ease. They wait for success to feel worthy, for love to feel open, for abundance to feel free. But the mirror doesn't smile first, it waits. It mimics. It reveals. The physicists call it collapse of the wave function. The mystics called it as within, so without. Both are describing the same cosmic choreography, consciousness shaping the probabilities of matter into visible form. The field doesn't moralize or judge. It harmonizes. It listens to the tone of your being and projects that frequency into experience. If you feel lack, it reflects situations that justify it. If you feel wholeness, it bends reality around that wholeness. And here's where so many spiritual seekers get caught in the loop. They try to fix what they see without realizing that what they see is only the echo of what they're broadcasting. It's like yelling at your reflection for frowning while your own brow is still furrowed. The harder you try to correct the mirror, the deeper the distortion becomes, because your focus is still on what's wrong. When you chase change from a state of frustration, the field interprets frustration as the dominant frequency. The message it receives isn't "I want freedom," it's "I am trapped." And the field, loyal as glass, shows you more confinement. This is the subtle tyranny of trying. But when you understand the mirror principle, something liberating happens. You realize the power isn't in the reflection, it's in the stance of the one observing. The shift begins not by fixing the image, but by softening the gaze, by relaxing into awareness itself. Consider the light that hits a mirror. It doesn't struggle, it doesn't plead to be seen differently. It simply arrives. And in arriving, it's reflected with perfect accuracy. Consciousness works the same way. The moment you release the effort to force the field into agreement, you become transparent enough for truth to shine through. This doesn't mean you stop visualizing. It means you visualize from alignment, not lack. You stop shouting affirmations from a void of disbelief and start whispering them from the quiet, knowing that reality is malleable, alive, responsive. You may have noticed that when you're in flow, those moments when you lose track of time and self, the world seems to cooperate. Opportunities appear, coincidences multiply, delays dissolve. That's not magic, that's coherence. Your inner signal becomes so clear that the field can mirror it instantly. But the mirror isn't only a friend, it's a teacher. It shows you the frequencies you've forgotten you're emitting. Every repeating pattern in your life is a reflection of a belief rehearsed into stability. If scarcity keeps visiting, it's because some part of you keeps hosting it unconsciously. The mirror's message is never punishment, it's feedback. So, look closely. When you see a pattern you don't prefer, instead of resisting it, inquire, what aspect of me is this reflecting? What am I believing so deeply that reality keeps echoing it? That question turns frustration into awareness, and awareness into alchemy. Eventually, you stop fearing your reflections. You start reading them. You understand that every moment, pleasant or painful, is consciousness showing itself its own face. And here's the secret hiding in plain sight when you embrace even the distortions in the mirror with compassion. They begin to clear on their own. Love reorganizes energy faster than analysis ever could. The field isn't against you, it's responding for you faithfully, precisely, like a cosmic copy machine running on vibration. Your task isn't to outsmart it, it's to become conscious of what you're printing. Because the quantum mirror doesn't show you the world as it is. It shows you the world as you are. And once you understand that the mirror always tells the truth, you begin to see why most people remain trapped in endless reflections of confusion. Their signals are blurred, their vision unfocused, their intention a fog of contradictions. You say you want peace, but you carry the tension of proving you deserve it. You picture abundance, but you secretly fear losing it. You imagine love, but still armor your heart against disappointment. Each conflicting emotion fractures the beam of consciousness into scattered light. The field doesn't ignore you, it just can't read the message clearly enough to respond coherently. Precision, then, is the first act of true quantum power, not perfection, precision. Think of light itself. A candle glows with warmth but can't cut steel. A laser, on the other hand, can split atoms. What's the difference? Coherence, all its photons aligned in phase, frequency, and direction. The same rule governs thought. Random wishes illuminate, but focused vision transforms. When you visualize vaguely, I want to be happier, I want success, I want healing, you're like a traveler asking the universe, take me somewhere nice. How could the infinite respond? It doesn't know where to aim, but say instead, I choose to feel creative fulfillment each morning when I wake. I choose to feel connection pulsing through every conversation. Now the coordinates are clear. The field can triangulate your frequency with razor accuracy. Precision isn't about micromanaging how things happen. It's about defining essence, the tone of experience, the emotional signature of the life you're selecting. That's what the field listens to, the pattern behind the words. You might notice that when you describe your desires with texture, what it smells like, feels like, tastes like, your body begins to respond. The visualization stops being theoretical and starts becoming biological. Nerves fire, muscles soften, hormones shift. The vision becomes data your subconscious can act upon. And here's the revelation hiding inside that process. Your subconscious is a quantum computer. It doesn't run on commands. It runs on clarity. The more coherent your emotional imagery, the faster it compiles into lived experience. Most people feed this inner computer contradictory code. I want love typed beside, I'm afraid of being seen. I want wealth next to money is dangerous. The system freezes, the output static, confusion, repetition of the same loops labeled reality. But when you program your consciousness with precision, when every thought, word, and emotion sings the same note, you generate what physicists call phase coherence. Suddenly, the noise resolves into signal. Random particles of potential align into a singular outcome. Imagine a radio dial. Every station exists simultaneously, but you only hear the one you're tuned to. Visualization works the same way. Precision is the hand turning the dial. You don't create the song, you simply align with it until it fills the room. This level of precision requires honesty. You can't fine-tune a signal you won't acknowledge. So, ask yourself, what do I actually want to experience? Not what you think you should want, not what you believe is possible, but what you truly desire to feel in this lifetime. That honesty calibrates the instrument, and when the signal locks in, the world begins to rearrange quietly, elegantly. You might start noticing synchronicities, people, phrases, opportunities, all echoing your vision. That's coherence made visible. Still, precision alone is not enough. One moment of clarity can open a portal, yes, but it takes rhythm to keep it open. The field responds not only to what you declare, but to what you repeat. Because in the quantum landscape, momentum is built through consistency. A single pulse can spark a shift, but sustained resonance is what rewrites reality. So, hold that vision in focus. Feel it as real. Name it with precision. Because what you can describe with clarity, you can experience with certainty. And from that clarity, another principle emerges, one that ancient monks and modern scientists alike understood: the rhythm of repetition. That clarity you just shaped, that laser of intention, must now learn to hum in time. Precision opens the channel, but repetition keeps it alive. The universe listens not to your momentary excitement, but to your sustained song. Everything in creation pulses, heartbeats, seasons, planetary orbits, all rhythm. Repetition isn't redundancy, it's reinforcement. The cosmos itself repeats in patterns because repetition is how energy remembers. The ancients knew this long before brain scans confirmed it. Monks repeating mantras at dawn weren't performing superstition, they were engineering coherence. Every chant, every breath synchronized mind, body, and field into a single waveform. The same law applies to you when you return again and again to your vision, not mechanically, but musically. Because frequency, once held steadily, amplifies itself. Scientists call it constructive interference waves in sync, stacking power. Random visualization is destructive interference waves, colliding, canceling, leaving silence where possibility could have been. When you revisit your chosen vision daily, with feeling, with presence, you create a standing wave of consciousness. It doesn't fade when you stop thinking about it. It lingers, vibrating beneath awareness, reprogramming your brain's networks and aligning subconscious impulses with your chosen future. Think of it this way: each session of focused visualization is a brushstroke on the canvas of reality. One stroke is beautiful but incomplete. Layer upon layer, depth appears, form emerges. Eventually, the image becomes so complete that the world has no choice but to match it. But repetition isn't mindless rote. The field doesn't respond to boredom, it responds to coherence infused with vitality. You don't chant to numb yourself, you repeat to refine awareness. Each cycle deepens texture, adding detail you couldn't access before. One day you focus on the visual scene, the next, the emotional tone, then the scent in the air, the tactile feeling in your hands. Spiral repetition, each pass richer than the last, builds neural symphonies of expectation. Your brain begins to recognize that imagined state as home. Soon, that future no longer feels far away, it feels familiar. The body stops arguing with the mind. The cells stop doubting the vision. You have rehearsed reality so deeply that the subconscious begins performing it automatically. And here lies the quiet miracle. When the subconscious accepts the future as normal, reality has no resistance left to manifest it. Timing enhances this power. Just before sleep and immediately after waking, your brain drifts into theta state, the threshold between conscious and subconscious. These are quantum windows. When the gatekeeper of rational thought relaxes, input during these moments bypasses the filters of doubt. What you visualize there sinks straight into the soil of becoming. So create ritual around rhythm. Light a candle at night, not as superstition, but as signal. I'm entering the field. Breathe, visualize, feel. In the morning, repeat over days. Coherence builds over weeks. Momentum stabilizes over months. Your life reorganizes around the rhythm you've established. And when resistance arises, and it will, don't interpret it as failure. In physics, even a wave encountering an obstacle creates new harmonics. The interference itself refines tone. So when your mind wanders, or emotion dulls, or doubt creeps in, treat it as feedback, adjusting your frequency toward purer resonance. Repetition trains both faith and focus. It teaches patience in a culture addicted to immediacy. It reminds you that creation is less about control and more about consistency. Because the universe doesn't respond to occasional declarations, it responds to sustained devotion. The monks understood, the scientists understand, and somewhere inside you understand too. Precision opens the door. Repetition holds it open. And when the rhythm becomes effortless, when the act of visualization feels less like practice and more like breathing, you begin to sense another current moving through it, emotion. Because thought is the architect, but feeling is the electricity that brings the design to life. You can hold the blueprint of your vision with mathematical precision. You can revisit it faithfully each morning and night. But until it feels, it cannot fly. Because in the quantum landscape, thought sketches the outline, but emotion charges the circuitry. The universe doesn't read your sentences, it reads your sensations. When we last paused, the rhythm of repetition was humming the pulse of your future, taking shape through daily coherence. Now that pulse must quicken, must warm, must become alive. Emotion is the current that bridges idea and embodiment. Thought alone is static electricity potential waiting for contact. But once you bring authentic feeling into that image, energy flows. Creation ignites. Most people misunderstand this entirely. They believe visualization means forcing themselves to feel positive, to paste artificial joy over unhealed tension. But forced emotion creates distortion. It's the difference between humming a melody from your heart and pretending to sing with a frozen smile. The field can tell the difference. True emotional coherence isn't performance, it's permission. It's the quiet decision to inhabit your vision, not simply observe it. Instead of looking at your desired reality from the outside, you step into it, sensing the air, the texture, the gravity of that life as if it were already your home. Try this, close your eyes and feel what your chosen reality feels like, from the inside out. Don't imagine reaching for it, imagine remembering it. You're not chasing, you're recalling. The subtle shift from wanting to being rearranges the entire field. In that state, your nervous system begins to release the same chemistry as if the vision were already real. The heart's rhythm steady, the body breathes deeper, the subconscious, taking its cues from physiology, begins to believe. And once the body believes, reality follows. This is quantum embodiment, the phase where thought descends into matter through emotion. You are no longer visualizing your future. You are rehearsing your identity within it. Two tuning forks vibrate together when they share frequency, even across distance. Emotion functions the same way. When your inner resonance matches the feeling tone of your desired world, that world must respond. It's not mysticism, it's resonance physics applied through consciousness, yet this is where honesty matters most. You cannot fake coherence. Manufactured happiness carries the frequency of resistance, not joy. The mind says, "I am abundant," while the body whispers, "I am afraid." The field hears the whisper, not the declaration. So emotional mastery and visualization is not about creating feelings, it's about uncovering them. The joy, the peace, the excitement, they already exist within the potential you're choosing. They're not invented, they're discovered. When you connect to them sincerely, the frequency becomes unmistakably real. And when that alignment clicks, reality moves fast, opportunities magnetize, conversations shift. The right people seem to orbit into your path, not because you willed them to, but because coherence makes finding you easy. You've become a resonant beacon in the noise. Emotion also stabilizes your signal when logic falters. On the days your mind doubts, your heart remembers. On the nights uncertainty clouds your focus, feeling restores faith. This is why the most advanced visualizers are the most compassionate. They know love is the purest coherence possible. Gratitude, awe, tenderness. These are not sentimental distractions. They are frequencies of alignment so stable that the field itself seems to soften around them. So when you visualize, don't just see, feel. Feel as the one who already lives the scene. Let the emotion sculpt your physiology, recalibrate your heartbeat, rewrite your expectations. Because emotion is the bridge between vision and manifestation. It's the quantum fuel that turns imagery into incarnation. And once you've ignited that fuel, once your vision vibrates with genuine feeling, something mysterious begins to happen beneath awareness. A stillness, a waiting. This is the hidden phase the mystics whispered about, the quiet period where transformation brews unseen quantum incubation. You've poured clarity into the field. You've repeated it until rhythm became ritual. You've breathed emotion into it until it pulsed with life. And then nothing. Silence, stillness. This is the part that breaks most people. They believe the quiet means failure, that if nothing visible is shifting, the field isn't listening. But in truth, the silence is sacred. It's incubation, the invisible interval where everything reorganizes itself beneath perception. Every seed must rest in darkness before it breaks open. Every symphony pauses between movements before the crescendo. So too must your consciousness rest between intention and manifestation. Quantum incubation is not stagnation. It's the subconscious doing the heavy lifting, while your conscious mind worries about evidence. Your deeper intelligence is cross-referencing new patterns with old beliefs, dissolving contradictions, recalibrating expectation. It's quietly rewriting the architecture of reality itself, starting with your nervous system. During this time, dreams may become vivid, symbols might surface, synchronicities may flicker like Morse code from another dimension. These are not random, they're echoes of the deeper integration underway. Yet because the external world hasn't changed yet, impatience creeps in. Doubt whispers, maybe I'm doing it wrong, but the field doesn't rush. It synchronizes, it aligns timing, probability, and readiness with mathematical elegance. To force manifestation before the foundation settles is like pulling a sprout from the soil to see if it's growing roots. The most advanced practitioners understand incubation is participation in stillness. You maintain the signal without demanding results. You hold your vision lightly, breathing into trust rather than control. You stop checking for proof and start living as proof. This is where repetition matures into devotion, not the frantic repetition of effort, but the steady pulse of faith. You keep visualizing not because you doubt, but because you're aligning. Like a musician tuning before a concert, you refine tone daily, trusting that when the curtain rises, the melody will already be perfect. In neuroscience, this phase corresponds to consolidation, the process by which neural circuits stabilize new information. What was once a conscious effort becomes automatic. What was once a future vision becomes the mind's default blueprint. Emotionally, it can feel like emptiness, but emptiness is fertile. The seed doesn't fear the dark. It recognizes it as womb. So when nothing seems to happen, something vast is happening. The invisible architecture of your reality is bending into new geometry. Your relationships, opportunities, and even perception are being rearranged behind the curtain of time. This phase also reveals your level of trust in the process. Can you love the silence as much as the signal? Can you stay coherent when feedback isn't immediate? The universe seems to test not your worth, but your willingness to remain steady amid ambiguity. Incubation refines humility. It teaches you that manifestation is not manipulation, it's cooperation. You don't make the flower bloom. You create conditions where blooming becomes inevitable. And when your frequency holds stable long enough, subtle evidence starts appearing, tiny cracks in the shell of the old pattern. An unexpected idea, a sudden coincidence, a door opening in a direction you hadn't considered. The seed begins to stir. Patience here is power disguised. The stiller you become, the faster the field can move. Because stillness is signal amplified, interference canceled, coherence magnified. The ego may crave fireworks, but the field speaks in whispers first. Learn to hear those whispers, and you'll never doubt silence again. Because just beyond this quiet, a new skill begins to awaken, the art of recognition, knowing when the field has answered and how to receive without resistance. Out of that silence, patterns begin to flicker, not always grand, not always obvious. A phrase overheard, a message arriving at the perfect hour, a door opening that looks nothing like the one you imagined. This is the beginning of recognition, the art of seeing the invisible become visible. The incubation you just endured wasn't inactivity, it was calibration. Now the field is starting to respond, but in its own language, frequency, not form. And if you expect the manifestation to arrive dressed in the exact costume you pictured, you'll miss it entirely. Reality speaks in essence, not detail. The universe loves metaphor. It delivers your desire through the quickest, most elegant route, often bypassing your conscious imagination. You may ask for sunlight and receive a window instead. The warmth is the same. The path, unexpected. Quantum recognition is learning to read resonance instead of surface. When something aligns, it feels unmistakable, a gentle click inside the chest. A sense of yes, not shouted but whispered from the bones. It's not logical agreement, it's energetic familiarity. This sensitivity develops naturally as your practice deepens. The more coherent your signal, the clearer your receiver becomes. You start recognizing opportunity not through analysis, but through vibration. Imagine holding a tuning fork and hearing it hum when a note nearby matches its pitch. That's what recognition feels like, the subtle resonance between your inner state and an outer situation. Yet many people miss this moment because they keep searching for literal confirmation. They say, "This can't be it. It doesn't look like my vision board." They wait for perfection and overlook progress. But manifestation rarely photocopies your imagination. It translates your essence. So instead of asking, does this look like what I wanted? Ask, does this feel like what I called forth? The difference is revolutionary. Recognition also requires discernment. Not every signal that glitters is gold. Some experiences mimic your frequency temporarily but lack depth. Authentic manifestations expand you, false ones contract. You can tell by how your body responds. Openness signals alignment. Tension signals compromise. To sharpen this awareness, practice presence. The more still you are internally, the easier it is to detect the subtle vibrations of truth. Meditation isn't withdrawal, it's tuning. Silence sharpens hearing, stillness amplifies signal. And remember, the field doesn't only answer through pleasant experiences. Sometimes it mirrors a hidden belief for resolution. A challenge appearing after visualization is not betrayal, it's clarification. The field showing you what still blocks coherence, recognition. Then becomes a dance between humility and intuition. You stop demanding and start listening. You interpret synchronicities as conversation, not coincidence. A delay may be guidance, a detour, protection. There will be moments when your analytical mind panics. But this isn't what I asked for. Pause. Feel into the deeper layer. You may discover that what you truly desired, freedom, joy, purpose, is arriving through a channel your intellect could never design. This shift from literalism to frequency literacy changes everything. Life becomes interactive, responsive. Each encounter, a clue, each intuition, an invitation. When you master recognition, gratitude becomes your reflex. You stop labeling experiences as good or bad. You start seeing them as echoes of alignment. You understand that every manifestation, whether direct or disguised, is communication with a living field that loves precision but adores creativity. And the more gracefully you recognize and receive, the faster the feedback loop becomes. The field learns your rhythm. You learn its humor. The collaboration matures. But just as this dance grows more fluid, an ancient force tends to reappear: the inertia of the old self, the magnetic pull of familiar patterns trying to reassert control. This is the next threshold on the path of mastery, the appearance of quantum resistance, the shadow before the dawn. It often arrives just when everything begins to move: an unexpected setback, an argument, a wave of exhaustion, or the sudden whisper, maybe none of this is real. That's not failure, that's physics. Because every new frequency must meet the inertia of the old before it stabilizes. You can't build a new orbit without feeling the gravity of the last one tug at your heels. The field isn't punishing you, it's testing the coherence of your signal. Can you hold your vision steady when the echo of your past self calls you home? Quantum resistance is the turbulence that appears when your consciousness accelerates faster than your comfort zone. It's like water boiling, chaos on the surface, transformation underneath. The heat doesn't mean you're burning out, it means you're changing state. When old emotions resurface, when doubt multiplies, when patterns you thought you outgrew return louder than before, know this: the frequency you've cultivated has started to destabilize the previous one. The noise is the sound of an old structure collapsing. Most people misinterpret that noise. They call it bad luck, retrograde energy, or the universe testing me, but the universe doesn't test, it tunes. Resistance is reality adjusting to the new vibration you're holding. It's the friction of recalibration. If you see resistance as opposition, you'll fight it. If you see it as confirmation, you'll integrate it. Here's the paradox: what you resist persists because resistance feeds it energy. But when you observe resistance with neutrality, when you name it, breathe it, allow it without judgment, it begins to dissolve. Awareness, not force, breaks the loop. Think of an airplane taking off. The engines roar, the air thickens, the cabin shakes. That's resistance. But the same friction that slows the plane on the ground becomes the lift that carries it. Once velocity increases, you're not being pushed down, you're learning how to rise. So when the old feelings come, the self-doubt, the scarcity, the impatience don't retreat into old identity. Watch them like weather systems passing through, each one clearing space for a clearer sky. Ask yourself, what belief is this resistance revealing for release? Often, the obstacle contains the upgrade. The moment you interpret discomfort as feedback rather than failure, you extract power from pain. And then, something miraculous happens. Resistance becomes rhythm. You begin to sense its timing, to dance with its arrival rather than fear it. Each challenge signals proximity to breakthrough, because resistance peaks right before transformation stabilizes. Ancient mystics describe this as the guardian at the threshold, the final illusion guarding entry to a higher state of consciousness. In physics, it's simply energy redistribution. Systems resist change until new equilibrium forms. Hold steady. Maintain the emotional coherence you cultivated. Keep visualizing, not as denial, but as declaration. This storm proves I'm ascending. In that stance, even chaos becomes cooperation. You no longer crave an easy path, you crave an authentic one. Remember, in every frictional moment, the universe is asking, are you still that old frequency, or are you ready to be the new one consistently? When you answer through embodiment rather than words, when you remain centered amid contrast, you trigger the next evolution of the process. The field, seeing stability through turbulence, begins to treat you not as a petitioner, but as a partner. And partnership changes everything. You stop commanding the universe and start conversing with it. That conversation, the ongoing dialogue between your intention and the intelligence that shapes matter, is the dance of co-creation. Every system that survives learns rhythm. Stars orbit without colliding. Oceans breathe in tides. Atoms pulse between form and emptiness. Creation has never been a solo act. It's choreography. And now that you've faced resistance and learned to read it as rhythm rather than rejection, you're ready to join that choreography consciously, the dance of co-creation. Because manifestation was never meant to be command and control. It was always a duet. You offer intention. The field offers orchestration. You pulse with vision. The field responds with opportunity. It's a feedback loop of infinite intelligence learning itself through you. The human error is trying to lead every step. We outline every detail, demand exact timing, insist on our chosen route, and then wonder why flow vanishes. But the quantum field has access to vectors of possibility you could never compute. Its intelligence is creative, adaptive, humorous even. It delivers the essence of your request through the path of least resistance, not the path of your prediction. So the advanced practitioner practices allowance. You hold your intention clear as a lighthouse beam, but you let the sea decide the tide that carries it ashore. Precision without control, devotion without rigidity. This is what mystics meant when they said, "Thy will be done." Not submission, but synchronization. A recognition that the same intelligence-breathing galaxies is the one animating your heartbeat. You're not surrendering to an external power, you're syncing with your own source code. When you visualize now, do it as conversation. Speak to the field as an old friend. Ask questions in silence and listen for answers through synchronicity. Maybe a book falls from a shelf. Maybe an idea repeats 3 times in a week. Maybe someone mentions exactly what you were pondering. That's the dialogue unfolding in real time. The more you honor that conversation, the faster the response becomes. You begin to sense the field's preferences, how it loves elegance, how it avoids waste, how it favors outcomes that benefit more than just you. When your vision aligns with contribution, Manifestation accelerates because you've tuned to the collective rhythm of evolution itself. Trust is the new precision. You no longer grip outcomes, you sculpt probabilities with gentle curiosity. You act when intuition tingles, rest when silence deepens. Each movement becomes choreography between visible and invisible realms. You'll notice that coincidences start stacking faster now, not because you've hacked the matrix, but because you've stopped introducing friction. Control was static, trust is signal. The universe doesn't resist alignment, it rushes to meet it. And when you miss a step, when impatience flares or ego demands the spotlight, don't scold yourself. Just return to rhythm. Every dancer stumbles. Mastery is in the recovery. Here's a secret the field loves: gratitude. Appreciation amplifies coherence faster than discipline. When you celebrate the process itself, not just the results, the intelligence around you becomes playful. You'll feel it nudge, tease, surprise, reminding you that creation isn't labor, it's art. Eventually, the dance becomes seamless. Visualization no longer feels like practice. It feels like living dialogue, each breath a request, each heartbeat a reply. At that point, manifestation transcends personal gain. You start perceiving that every act of conscious creation contributes to a larger choreography, the unfolding of an awakening species, learning to dream together responsibly. And that realization leads naturally to the next revelation that your personal visualization practice was never only about you. It was training for something larger, the quantum movement of collective evolution itself. The dance widens. What once felt like a personal symphony now reveals itself as part of an orchestra spanning generations. You start to realize that every coherent thought, every precise visualization, every act of alignment you've performed hasn't vanished into private success. It's been woven into a shared field of becoming, because consciousness doesn't end at your skin. The quantum field you've been shaping with attention is the same ocean that moves through everyone else. Each wave of coherence you generate ripples outward, subtly shifting what others can perceive and embody. You've felt it yourself. Walk into a room where someone is anxious and tension spreads. Step into a space of calm and peace expands. This is field contagion, emotional and energetic resonance in action. Now imagine that principle amplified by thousands, even millions of individuals practicing visualization not as wish fulfillment, but as evolutionary service. When enough people maintain precision, repetition, and emotional coherence around visions of healing, sustainability, compassion, the field stabilizes those frequencies. The collective mirror begins to clear. Systems reorganize. New solutions emerge seemingly out of nowhere. But they don't arise from nowhere, they arise from now here, from us. This is what mystics intuited in temples and scientists detect in probability waves. Shared consciousness collapses reality collectively. You're not just influencing your own timeline, you're participating in shaping humanity's. So the question shifts from what can I manifest to what reality do we choose to embody together? The skill you refined through personal desire becomes the instrument through which planetary coherence can play its next chord. The more you align with that purpose, the more grace fills your practice. Self-centered goals dissolve into expressions of contribution. You visualize abundance not merely to acquire, but to circulate. You imagine healing not to escape pain, but to model wholeness for others. You picture love not to be adored, but to awaken recognition in those who've forgotten what love feels like. And something extraordinary happens. Your manifestations multiply faster, not because you're chasing more, but because the field amplifies intentions that serve the whole. The intelligence behind reality favors evolution. When your desires become aligned with that larger movement, support rushes in from directions you couldn't anticipate. This is the true maturity of visualization. not private magic, but conscious participation in the symphony of existence. Each of us, a frequency, each act of coherent vision, a note. Together, we tune the future. So imagine, right now, countless beings across the planet closing their eyes in quiet coherence. Visualizing peace, innovation, renewal, feel the resonance of their unseen hearts overlapping with yours until one global heartbeat hums through the ether. That's not metaphor, that's morphic resonance, the physics of collective awakening. And as this awareness deepens, your personal visualization practice transforms into living prayer, continuous transmission. You're no longer sending signals, you are the signal. What began as a search for personal transformation becomes recognition of the oldest truth there is: consciousness creates. Together. From here, there's no separation between your breath and the universe's exhalation. No line between your imagination and reality's unfolding. Only one vast field, dreaming itself awake through the countless eyes of creation. And that realization leads, naturally, tenderly, into the final cadence, the gentle descent back into silence, where integration becomes embodiment, where the teaching dissolves into being. And now the music softens. The pulse that carried you through mirrors, frequencies, and fields begins to fade into a steady hush. You've traced the arc from imagination to incarnation, from single spark to shared constellation. What remains is quiet awareness, the knowing that creation never stopped. Everything you've learned points back to this consciousness, and reality were never separate. You don't stand before the universe asking, you stand within it, answering. Every thought, every breath, every emotion is a brushstroke on the canvas of existence. So pause. Let your attention settle into the space between heartbeats. That's the field listening. You don't need to force another vision tonight. You've already set waves in motion that will ripple far beyond memory. Your only task now is to embody coherence, to walk gently, speak deliberately, feel deeply. Each simple act becomes continuation of the practice. The most advanced visualization is not performed with closed eyes, but with open presence. It's in how you look at a stranger and see possibility, how you breathe before you speak, how you allow each moment to reveal its design without demanding it explain itself. If you wish, you can breathe one phrase into this stillness softly, like a promise to yourself: I am the field, remembering itself. Let the words dissolve. Let the silence answer. Because the work is no longer about summoning realities. It's about inhabiting the one you've already become. The shift has already occurred. It's unfolding through your awareness now, in ways subtle, elegant, infinite. So rest, the signal is strong, the field is listening. And somewhere across this vast connected consciousness, thousands of hearts are pulsing in rhythm with yours, each one dreaming the next world into being. Breathe once more, feel the stillness hum. You are home.